It would seem as though in the present time the Chaos Gods have smiled upon Joy Toy and blessed them with these figures that will now be blessing our shelves soon enough. Joy Toy is coming out swinging with some of the models that we're getting here, and I think that this is going to be one of the, if not the most exciting releases that we've ever gotten from Joy Toy, and that's saying something considering what we've already gotten in terms of Warhammer 40k. So let's go ahead and jump into it and break it down. Alright, Trial Mob, so here it is. We are finally getting full solicitations of the Chaos Space Marines that we knew were coming. So here we have it, the Chaos Space Marines Black Legion Warband. And instead of getting full squads of 4 for everything, we're getting basically, from my understanding, 3 different sets: a Chaos Lord, 2 Chaos Space Marines, and 3 Terminators that you can buy all separate if you want, but all together they make the Warband as a whole. I kind of like that they're changing it up a little bit. Instead of giving us just 4 more of everything, they just continue going. They're giving us something that's a bit different, and I got a little bit of everything to show you. Now here you are going to have all of them all together, and as you can tell, top and bottom, the Terminators all come with basically helmeted heads and unhelmeted heads, but the Chaos Lord only seems to come with a single head, and the 2 Chaos Space Marines only come with helmeted heads. So starting off, we have Calos the Ravager, and this guy is an absolute badass. Now I forget what set he came from. I believe this is one of the guys that we got from the, I don't think it's called the Black Pyramid set. I'm going to have to figure it out. But this guy was one of the guys that I was definitely hoping we were going to get at some point in a larger articulated scale. And here we have him looking absolutely terrific, man. This dude's a badass. The huge shoulder plates, the nice huge armor, the chaos, all the chaos ornaments that we're seeing, including the insignia on the hammer. This is a really impressive looking figure. Now, the articulation on this is probably going to be about as good as we've seen before. My only fear is that these guys, all of them, come with really, really big shoulder pauldrons. So we might see a little bit less articulation, but I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference overall. I like the overall aesthetic for me, including the face. There's a lot of personality in that face. The gun looks cool. Again, the hammer is probably my favorite thing. And that cape is not going to be a cloth cape, but I saw a video recently of the Primaris Librarian, and he had a very, very, very soft plastic where the cloth would be. So I'm sure that they're going to go with the same thing here, which should mean that this should not get in the way in any way for articulation. So here we see everything that he's going to come with. So again, the hammer, the jetpack is removable, the pistol looks nice. We get 2 other, probably the hammer holding hands right there. But what I didn't realize before is, as you can tell, that cape is a really big cape piece that comes all the way down his back. So it's really nice that you can remove that and just basically put on the jetpack if you just wanted to do it that way. But if you want to give him the whole motif, you can. And again, I think that's absolutely badass that you have those kinds of options. I do like the way it's painted. I really hope it ends up looking this way, but this to me is very, very impressive. Now here we have Brother Talis, and again, this is going to be another really cool rendition of the Chaos Space Marines. I love the pistol. I love the, I guess that's a chainsword, right? So it's a chainsword. The jetpack in the back, the way it looks, the really long helmet pieces that he has. Again, there's just a lot of detail here. These guys look menacing, and they are supposed to be, you know, some of the most vile warriors that you could potentially purchase. So I really, again, like the motif that we're getting here. The more of these photos that I see where they're posed up, the more I'm getting impressed. I know we've seen this before, but as you can tell, there's not a problem in these one-legged poses. So the fact that he can hold himself up, no problem, and the fact that he can get his hand up that far means that articulation, again, shouldn't be too much of an issue, even though these guys have those larger pauldrons. And the feet definitely look a little bit different in terms of their geometry. I know that in style they look different, but I don't know, these look a little bit more tighter per se in their proportions. And again, same thing here. We have him with the chainsword, the pistol, the jetpack off, but this guy actually comes with 4 pairs of hands. So I'm not exactly sure why this one comes with 4. we've seen similar stuff before with some of the other Ultramarines, so I guess there's probably a reason for all of them. But yes, he does come with a full kit. Now, maybe it's the hair on this one, but Brother Nargas looks absolutely terrible, and I mean that in the best way possible. This guy looks like an absolute menace, and that's badass. And again, I want to just make sure we give credit where credit is due. The amount of detail on all three of the guys we've seen here has been just top notch. They're doing absolute justice to these guys. Now, the only thing I'm not liking that I'm seeing here is that blade on the, what would you call it, the front skirt, looks like it's most likely going to be like connected to the skirt piece, which means you won't actually be able to remove it for him to hold it in hand. Now, it could be wrong, but that's just the way it's looking like to me, so I wish that's not the case. But again, the amount of detail in the chainmail, the grays, the golds, the pauldron on the left, and the insignia, the skull. I mean, each one of these guys is just oozing with a certain amount of personality, and this is why I've been so happy that we were going to get these Chaos Soldiers, because the reality is these are the ones that are going to have the most personality, even compared to the more, I don't want to say stale, but more sterile look of all the normal legions that we're getting. Now, as you can tell, putting them into a kneeling pose is absolutely not a problem at all, and that is just a beautiful shot here. And that axe, man, with that eye on it, damn, I'm highly impressed with what I'm seeing here. Now, as you can see here, same motif. We have the pistol, the jetpack. I know I keep saying jetpack. I know somebody corrected me, but I'm going to keep calling it a jetpack. The jetpack, the axe itself, 4 hands again. And now we're actually seeing that knife right there on the ground. But I'm not sure if that knife is just a separate knife, or if that knife is the same one that we saw hanging from the front of his front cape, or whatever you want to call that. So hopefully that is the case, and you can put it on his hand. So if that's the only gripe that I had, then I have absolutely no gripes, and this is a perfect figure. Now, switching over to the Terminators, here we have Brother Gnarl, and damn, is this guy imposing. I'm going to show you guys a few more photos later so you guys can see how absolutely gigantic these guys are going to be. But man, these are imposing figures. The Terminator armor looks incredible. These guys look like absolute killing machines, and of course the skulls on top, the spikes on their backs, the huge sword with the skull on it. I love the aesthetic of these guys. I'm sure that once we get Terminators, regular Terminators, from the regular Space Marine factions, I'm sure I'll say similar things, but damn, it's hard to beat the personality that you get out of these Chaos Space Marines. Now, as you can tell, you are able to remove the helmet on these guys, so all the Terminators will have helmeted heads and unhelmeted heads. And as you can tell, this guy does look pretty crazy. That, I don't know, they look, something about it I don't like, but at the same time I understand that they're supposed to be Chaos Space Marine and they're supposed to look like this, so I'm gonna let it slide on that. But when I get mine, I'll probably just keep their helmets on because I like that better. But again, as you can tell, articulation shouldn't be much of an issue. You'll be able to strike most of the main poses that you would want anyway, and yeah, that's fine with me. These are really thick armored boys, so I'm not too worried if there's just a little bit of sacrifice in overall articulation. So as you can tell right here, we do get the guns. So this one only comes with 2 hands. We come with the helmet, and then of course the sword, and they all look great. Now here we have Brother Batalor, and as you can tell, really badass looking figure. Now I want to say that left hand is a lot bigger than the other one, so that's supposed to be, I think, a power fist that he has on him, so that's pretty cool. And here you can tell that he has that blue head on the back, which is supposed to be, I believe, a Primaris Space Marine. So it's really badass that they're really following the lore here. And sorry, excuse me, not just the lore, but just basically what Joy Toy is pulling from. This looks literally like the miniatures just blown up, and that's absolutely magnificent. I want to say that this gun is a little bit different from the one we got before as well. So again, a few differences here and there to differentiate these guys. But again, these guys are just badass. Now again, here we have him with the Unhelmeted Head, and I do like this one a lot more. Something about this looks a lot more natural to me compared to the other ones that we got. I want to say that, I don't know, this kind of reminds me of like a Sub-Zero or Scorpion mask, so maybe that's why I'm liking it. But overall, the aesthetic is great, and I love the fact that they're changing it up in subtle forms. Like, again, the other one had the sword, this one has the power fist. And then here we get to see a more main difference. So as you can tell here, we only get one separate hand, which is, I imagine, a hand for holding the weapon in a different manner, or it might be a closed fist potentially. The gun itself, which now confirmed is a slightly different one. And then of course the helmeted head, which, oh, man, I love those tusks. And again, it's a good look in the back. We're seeing that Primaris head just impaled on the spike. It's pretty badass. Now this one right here has to be most likely my favorite one of the night. Brother Gornoth is without a doubt the coolest looking one of the Terminators, and I'm a huge sucker for absolutely ginormous guns like the one that we're seeing here. This is really cool, double barreled. You know, I don't know what kind of weapon this is, so if you know, please let me know in the comments. But as you can tell, just the overall look of this dude is badass. So instead of having the sword, again, we do have that power fist. But instead of having a gun, this dude has a double cannon. Oh my god, this dude is just an absolute ravager. But what's really cool, and I want to point it out at the top, you'll see that there is an Imperial Guardsman's head on there. By doing that, I can't help but to wonder, does this mean that we're going to be getting the Imperial Guardsmen soon? I really hope we do, but in the meantime, this guy is an absolute menace and I love it. Now here we have the Unhelmeted Head, and as you can tell, this is the only one that looks the most normal. It's completely exposed, and if you look at him, he has a really weird look on his face. Again, I hate these guys. I hate their faces. I'm probably not going to show them with their faces. I know that this is very accurate to the lore and very accurate to this to the source which they're pulling from. So that I can't knock them for doing a good job in doing that. But again, they do look demonic. They do look, I don't know, soulless, tortured, however you want to call it. They definitely don't look normal. And it's what I like, obviously, about the way the Ultramarines and the Space Marines look like, because they look, you know, they have really cool, you know, warrior looking faces, but these guys just look tormented. But again, that's just something that's really, really impressive by Joy Toy being able to capture that on, you know, such a small scale. Now this part is interesting to me. So we do get the cannon that is just absolutely enormous. We do get the helmet. We get one hand difference. Might be, again, I don't really know what the difference might be. But then we also get that piece right there. I'm not quite sure what that center piece is. I imagine it goes around the arm. It's maybe some kind of arm guard for where he holds the weapon from. So if anybody knows what that might be to confirm, please let me know in the comments so I can try to add it on the next one. Now, as I mentioned, I did have a little size comparison here to show you guys. On that left is one of the incursors that we've gotten before. Actually, I can't tell if it's an incursor, an infiltrator. But as you can tell, those are already big boys. And the Terminators on the side of them, oh my lord, look how big these guys are. These guys tower over them and are almost the equivalent of two of them back to back. So if you have two infiltrators right in front of you and they're shoulder to shoulder, basically that's one Terminator. These guys are enormous. Which brings to me the question that I'm sure a lot of us have in terms of overall scale. The scale of these guys seem to not match up the way I thought they would. As far as I can tell, the infiltrators are supposed to be taller than your normal Space Marine, which means that a Chaos Space Marine that's still based on that older generation of Space Marine should technically be shorter, and the Terminator should only be about as tall. But then, as you can see here, the Chaos Lord in the back is taller than all of them. Or at least in line with the Terminator. So that's something to note. The scale is very weird right now when it's coming to a lot of this stuff from Joy Toy. I don't know if Joy Toy did their homework on what to base the sizing of these guys off of. And on top of that, maybe they did it specifically on the miniatures. So I don't know if you guys own Chaos Space Marines or Chaos Space Marine Terminators. But if you guys do, please send me a link on my Instagram so I can see what an infiltrator looks like next to an actual Terminator. If this is the actual size of the minis, of the miniatures side by side, then you know what? I'm okay with this because they're getting it directly from the miniatures. But if this is not the actual scale, then it's off lore-wise and it's off miniature-wise, and Joy Toy is just kind of doing whatever the hell they want at this point. And I don't know, I don't really appreciate that. I know that these guys can be making things that are literally to the T perfectly sized, and the fact that they're not doing it, I don't really understand what they're doing here. But I am still excited for everything that they have coming out, because as you can tell from some of these photos, man, this is just some really badass stuff. I really hope that, again, they are following some kind of scale so that at least I can feel that they were doing things right and not completely out of whack. But even if they end up not following a perfect scale, so far I have been impressed with everything we've seen, because again, these Chaos Warband guys are massive. So let me know in the comments down below what you guys think, not just on scale, but on the looks, on what you guys are hoping comes out, and you know, what we might see in terms of the guardsmen, since now we're seeing at least